So it's late May, and that means that the NBA Finals are a little less than 1 week away. So the Lob City Clippers would probably already be at home for about 2 weeks at this point. I know we've been hard on the Clippers in the past, but I mean this with all sincerity when I say the Lob City Clippers are one of the most iconic NBA teams of the early 2010s. The trio of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan wowed fans for years with some of the best dunks and alley-oops you will ever see on a basketball court. They were a young, exciting, and very good team at a time when their crosstown rivals were at their lowest point. But despite almost always having a top 3 roster on paper, these Clippers never saw any significant playoff success, and after 6 seasons, they were broken up. So today we look back on one of the most memorable teams of the early 2010s, the Lob City Clippers. Before we talk about the Clippers though, if you haven't already, make sure you leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. If you were watching basketball in the early 2010s, one of the most fun teams to watch was the Lob City LA Clippers. They had Chris Paul, they had Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, a whole bunch of other good players. This team was so fun to watch, so entertaining, but lest we forget how fucking terrible this franchise was before they all got there.
Yeah, some of the younger viewers, they might not remember, because the Clippers were decent in the 2010s in Lob City. They've been pretty good with Kawhi and Paul George, but back in the day, they used to be trash.
Oh, they were the laughing stock of the league. From the time they moved to LA from San Diego until 2010, they had 4 playoff appearances and 7 60-loss seasons. They almost had twice as many 60-loss seasons as they had playoff appearances.
That's absolutely insane to me, but it kind of makes sense. Like, can you think of like any Clippers legends? Did Bob McAdoo play there or something? Like, I can't think of any legends they've had or any like historic teams, so it kind of makes sense.
I think Bob McAdoo played for the Braves when they were still in Buffalo before they became the Clippers.
So yeah, that doesn't count. I mean, they've had just no good players on that roster basically ever.
I think Dominique Wilkins played there for like a cup of coffee.
Yeah, Bill Walton was there for a couple seasons,
but he was done by that point.
Yeah, he was washed.
Yeah, a .349 winning percentage, worst in the NBA from the time they got to LA until 2010. By the way, in case you're wondering, the Lakers had a 65.9% winning percentage, which was best in the NBA. Also, the Lakers had more championships, double the amount of championships than the Clippers had playoff appearances.
Yeah, it doesn't help when your older brother in the city is literally the best NBA team of all time. Why would anyone choose to be a Clippers fan? If you like losing, I guess.
If you're a masochist.
Yeah, you hate yourself.
If you enjoy pain.
Los Angeles, no one was rooting for the Clippers back then. A couple more people now, but back then, you could not find a fan on the street.
No, this franchise was like snake bitten. Everything they did just didn't work. Their number 1 picks, like Michael Olowokandi, they took him instead of Vince Carter, Dirk, Paul Pierce, Antoine Jameson. They actually almost bolted LA for Anaheim.
That is so funny. Imagine a team in Anaheim. That would have been even more pathetic though, honestly.
Yeah, like you can't make it work like in downtown LA, but you still want to stay in the LA metro area. So you're like, oh, we'll just go to Anaheim. Nothing against Anaheim. I love Anaheim, but yeah, it's kind of a pathetic to move out of LA to Anaheim. They did almost sign Kobe Bryant in 2004. This would have been maybe like the biggest coup in sports history.
I did not know about this. Like, why would Kobe want to go to the Clippers?
Well, this was when he was having just all kinds of problems with the Lakers. Like, Shaq wanted a new contract. Phil was on his way out. The Lakers were just exploding. And after they traded away Shaq, Kobe was like, yeah, I'll stay with the Lakers.
Kobe dodged a bullet there.
Oh, he dodged a huge bullet.
I don't know if Kobe would have been Kobe if he would have gone to the Clippers.
Absolutely not. If you want a way to make Lakers fans wake up in a cold sweat, just show them this image right here. Mid-2000s, though, it was looking on the up and up a little bit. They won a playoff series in 2006. They won 1 playoff series. We got to start somewhere. Gotta start somewhere. Bad news is they had the worst record in the league 3 years later.
How does that happen? I remember they had some decent teams. They had like Sam Cassell, obviously Elton Brand. But how do you go from winning a playoff series to the worst team in the league in 3 years?
I feel like we're on that track.
Yeah, the Blazers are about to do that here soon. They basically have done that, so I guess it makes sense.
We can relate.
Yeah.
Even when they landed the number 1 pick, though, and they took Blake Griffin, and hey, Blake's a nice player. He had some great years that we're going to get into. Then again, they did take him over James Harden and Stephen Curry.
Yeah, that's tough, but if you remember at the time, Blake Griffin was like the guy in college. He was dunking everything in Oklahoma, and Steph Curry and James Harden weren't as big, so I kind of give him a pass for this. I don't think it was the worst draft pick taking Blake.
I don't either, and he had plenty of exciting moments with the team. Now, we can give them shit for this next move, when they traded Baron Davis and a first-round pick to Cleveland for Mo Williams. This is pretty well known, but that first round pick went on to become the number 1 pick in the draft, which was Kyrie Irving. And the thing that makes no sense to me about this trade, they made this trade when they had the 8th worst record in the league. And that was their pick for the next year. It's not like they traded this pick 5 years out and it just unluckily became the number 1 pick. Like, they knew they were going to have a chance at the number 1 pick and they traded it for Mo Williams?
This is one of the worst trades ever, and it doesn't get talked about enough. Like, sure, the Nets, that trade with KG and Paul Pierce, they get so much flack for that, but at least there was some logic. They were older, but there was a chance they could still compete. This trade has zero logic behind it. Mo Williams? Are you kidding me?
This was a bad team trading their first round pick for just like a mid player. This would be like the Blazers trading their first round pick next year for Andrew Wiggins.
Even then, Mo Williams wasn't even Andrew Wiggins level.
No, he wasn't. Things just turned on a dime for them, though, when they picked up Chris Paul from the Hornets. They picked him up for Eric Gordon, Chris Kaman, Al-Farouq Aminu, and Minnesota's 2012 first-round pick, which became Austin Rivers, which,
I mean, honestly, that trade was a fleece. I remember at the time it was like, damn, that's all you got to give up for Chris Paul. Chris Kaman was a solid player at the time. You got Al-Farouq Aminu. Eric Gordon, I guess, was all right, but they straight fleeced the Hornets for Chris Paul. And this was back when Chris Paul was an undisputed top 5 player in the league. He was the best point guard, and he was good enough to drag that Hornets team alone to the playoffs for multiple years.
Obviously, the big thing that everyone remembers about this is that Chris Paul originally was traded to the Lakers, but David Stern vetoed the trade for quote-unquote basketball reasons. Apparently, the reasons were the NBA, which owned the Hornets at the time and was trying to sell them, they thought that the trade would make the Hornets good, but just kind of like mid-good, like 7th seed good, and they thought that wasn't going to be appealing to a new owner.
But Chris Kaman and Eric Gordon, Al-Farouq Aminu is?
Exactly.
Like, what? How is that any more appealing?
What billionaire looks at Chris Kaman, Aminu, Eric Gordon, and Austin Rivers and is like, I want to build a team around that?
I mean, my only thing is maybe they wanted to go into full tank mode and this trade would help tank more, but I don't know, that makes zero sense to me. And it's a shocker that David Stern did that. He's known as this guy that just worshiped the Lakers and he basically screwed them over.
Can I give you my conspiracy theory on this?
Let's hear it.
Why have one LA team be good when you can have both of them be good?
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
That's the only thing I could think of. The Clippers have been garbage for the longest time, but they're still in that LA market. Mm-hmm. They had 2 young guys that the NBA knew, okay, these guys are high flyers, they can catch alley-oops, and you only give them the best alley-oop passer in the NBA to throw lobs to them.
Yeah, that makes sense, because even though the Clippers have been a joke, just being in LA makes them a super valuable team. And then you add that Battle of LA rivalry that they've been trying to cook up for like a decade now. I can see it.
And hell, the whole like throwing lobs part, Blake gave them their nickname legit when he found out about the trade at Clippers Media Day. He and DeAndre Jordan just joking around. He's like,
That'd be Lob City. Oh my gosh. For who?
Oh, it's gonna be Lob City. It's gonna be Lob. That's where the nickname comes from, for anyone who doesn't know.
I didn't know that, and you gotta give Blake some credit for that because that's one of the most iconic nicknames for any like era of any team. And I didn't know Blake came up with it. I thought just some like random dude or like a sports writer mentioned it, but okay, Blake.
Not only did he come up with it, he just came up with it just on the spot.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. It's a fairly obvious nickname. Someone probably would have come up with it either way, but Blake's got a marketing future coming up with that right off the bat.
And it was super fitting too, because this team stayed catching lobs from Chris Paul.
This team, though, in the eyes of many, it instantly made them a championship contender. Some people were even picking this team to go all the way to the NBA Finals. Like, I thought thought they were going to be good. I thought that was a little much, but they got Chris Paul. They had those two guys. You knew they were going to get better, and they picked up a lot of good guys to fill out the roster too.
Yeah, the Clippers just stayed picking up these like older role players. They had Crum Butler, Eric Bledsoe this before he was older, Matt Barnes, and it was a decent team. I don't know how people thought this would be a title contender that early, but I could see the hype. I mean, it was a complete roster. They were deep, and like I said, Chris Paul was one of the best players in the league at this time.
They also picked up Kenyon Martin and Chauncey Billups. Poor Chauncey tore his Achilles like in early February. Interesting to note, the Clippers lost 12 of their 19 games after Chauncey tore his ACL. We talked about this a while ago in our Knicks video. Like, why do teams not realize that Chauncey Billups on your team just equals wins?
I don't know. I mean, he's a smart player. He's a good player. The Nuggets were better with him than they were with AI. I don't know, honestly. Chauncey's good.
This season, though, was just a tremendous success for the Clippers. They went 40-26 overall, their best record in God knows, maybe ever. We don't have the numbers in front of us, but maybe it was their best record, like in terms of winning percentage overall. They matched up against the Grizzlies in the first round, and we'll go on to talk about it a little more. This was one of the best rivalries of the early 2010s.
Yeah, it was so random, but it was so fitting because the Clippers were the team from LA, the High Flyers, the Lob City, and then you had the clash of the Grizzlies being the Grindhouse, the tough team. So it was so random a rivalry, but it was just so fitting.
It was like blue collar versus Hollywood.
Exactly. I loved it.
It was amazing. And game one of this series, one of the all-time great comebacks in NBA history. The Clippers were down 27. I think they were down 24 in the fourth quarter. And they came back like, this was one of those comebacks that happened so quickly you didn't even notice it was happening till it was like a single-digit game.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. And sure, this was still kind of when three-pointers were getting more popular, but this isn't the modern NBA where 27 points is a huge deficit, but it somehow seems doable. Back then, that's like an impossible comeback. That's unreal.
Especially that late in the game.
Yeah.
This series was awesome though. The Clippers took a 3-1 lead, but they got forced back to game 7 in Memphis, and they pulled out a game 7 win in Memphis. I believe the final score was 82-72, which by the way, just early 2010s NBA scoreline right there.
Yeah, that's a classic early 2010s scoreline, and the Clippers, they did not blow the 3-1 lead. Gotta give them credit for that. Nearly did, but they didn't.
Give them time.
Yeah, it'll happen. Just wait.
Next round, though, they ran into the Spurs. There was no chance they were beating the Spurs.
I mean, the Spurs didn't make the finals that year, but that was the early 2010 Spurs, and those teams were stacked. They were well coached. They could play defense. They could shoot. Yeah, they had no chance against that Spurs team.
None whatsoever. Still a great year. Year got even greater at the end of the year when Neil O'Shea left as a GM to become our GM.
Yeah, they dodged a huge bullet by letting Neil O'Shea leave them, and the Blazers picked up a cancer with Neil O'Shea. I mean, what else can you call him?
Little did we know. Took a while to materialize, but he'll get you.
Yep.
So coming into the 2012-2013 season, hopes were high yet again. The Clippers, they got a little bit of playoff experience. They won a series. They ditched Mo Williams for Lamar Odom on draft night, which, sure, I guess.
Okay.
It's fine, whatever. They picked up, honestly, the player I think of on this team outside of like Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Jordan, which is Jamal Crawford.
Yeah, he broke so many players' ankles over the year, especially he had one of Wesley Matthews. I was at the game. One of the worst ever. Jamal Crawford, that dude was so much fun to watch. And yeah, for some reason, he was just an iconic member of this Lob City Clippers team.
The Clippers, though, again, they continued their trend of just picking up guys that look good on paper, but just don't really work on this roster. Like they re-signed Chauncey, which good move, but then they picked up Grant Hill, Ryan Hollins, Ronnie Turioff, Matt Barnes, like decent players, but I don't know. Also, a lot of old guys.
Yeah, what's up with their thing of picking up these washed stars? They're just like older role players, like Grant Hill in 2012, 2013. Picking him up is crazy. And Grant Hill was okay as he got older after dealing with the injuries, but Ryan Hollins, Ronnie Turioff, Matt Barnes, that's an all right pickup, but I don't get why they always did this.
Hey, something was working for them. They had a 17-game winning streak in December. They won 13 straight games at home. Hell, they were the best team in the West halfway through the season. They were 32-9.
Yeah, that's insane. And you gotta give Chris Paul a ton of credit. Sure, he still sees CP0 rings, but at the same time, like leading this team to 17 wins in a row and that record halfway through, like looking back, the supporting cast, it's decent, but it's not great.
Nah, it's not great. And honestly, they tailed off a little bit at the end of the year. They only went 24-17 in the second half of the season. Now, most teams tail off in the second half of the year, but that's not entirely unexpected. But this year was also the year that DeAndre Jordan just stole Brandon Knight's soul with that dunk over him. Genuinely, of all the great dunks we got from these teams, and there were plenty. I mean, there was Blake Griffin's over Kendrick Perkins. Blake had a few over Pau Gasol. This one's my favorite.
Yeah, this one was so disrespectful. And you remember DeAndre Jordan's face afterwards? He was like, yikes, like I just ended that, man. That was back when Brandon Knight was just the most unlucky player in the league. I felt bad for him, but...
Wasn't this the same year he got crossed out of his shoes by Kyrie in the Rising Stars game?
I remember that. Remember he blew like a game-winning layup attempt?
Oh, that's right, he did!
He was so unlucky.
Oh, poor guy. Then again, if you're Brandon Knight, you're 6'1", what the hell are you thinking?
Get out of the way.
You really think you're gonna block 7-foot uber athletic DeAndre Jordan from yamming it on you? No chance.
You know he was just caught there, and then he looked up and he's like, God damn it. Like he was in a rotation and then he just sees big ass DeAndre Jordan out of nowhere and he's like, God damn it.
He's like, what have I done?
Yeah.
This team again though, they matched up with Memphis again in the playoffs. They had a 2-0 lead in the series and then they lost 4 straight.
It's just disappointing to see. Like if you go up 2-0 in a series, I don't know the stat, but I think it's like a 79% chance you win this series, something like that. You got to be able to finish a series off after going up 2-0.
This was also, I think, a series where the Blake Griffin, Zach Randolph rivalry like started to elevate a little. Like Blake Griffin and Zach Randolph, they went at it. Zach Randolph especially, like props to Blake for really never fighting back and never like losing his cool, because Zach was an asshole to him in this series.
Yeah, it's Zach Randolph. He's part of that Jailblazers team. Zach Randolph ain't gonna back down to anyone, especially Blake Griffin. A guy like that? Hell no.
And with an early playoff loss like that, generally comes a coaching change. Vinny Del Negro, sayonara. He was a fine coach, but then they went out and they picked up Doc Rivers.
And the thing is, they traded for him. Like before this happened, I did not know you could trade for a head coach, but they sent out a first-round pick for Doc Rivers.
Originally though, this is insane. Apparently he was originally going to be traded with Kevin Garnett in exchange for DeAndre Jordan and a first-round pick, but the NBA wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow a coach to be traded for an active player.
I don't know how that would have worked out, but that's so interesting to see.
I don't think it would have worked out at all. This was still like 2013 KG. He still had a little bit left, but the thing that made that front court work was that both of them could run and jump. Like you throw old ass KG in there, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know if old ass KG gonna work with Lob City.
No.
So.
Young ass KG would have worked.
Oh yeah.
Would have worked like a charm.
How about the fact everybody used this team in 2K13?
Oh my fucking God.
You could just spam lobs with them. They had shooters. They were broke in that game.
This was the only team in the game, if I remember correctly, that had 5 guys rated 80 or higher. And just everybody, like without fail, used this team, even over like the Heat.
They were nice. Like I said, you could just spam lobs and hit threes. That's all you needed.
Moving on to 2013-14 though, they made some roster changes in the offseason. They swapped out Eric Bledsoe and Caron Butler for Jared Dudley and JJ Redick. They signed Darren Collison, picked up Antoine Jameson, Steven Jackson. Again, this kind of just continues the theme with all these Clippers teams. Like you look at it and it's like, wow, this is the best team in the NBA on paper, like 3 years ago.
Exactly. They just love signing these washed up role players. Like, I don't get it. Just invest in some youth for once. And I gotta mention, remember when they traded for Jared Dudley and he tweeted, Lob City just got better. For some reason, that was so funny to me. Like, Jared Dudley. No, it did not, first of all. And second of all, you could not get up at all. You weren't contributing to any lobs.
Well, he was going to be throwing the lobs, maybe.
I guess.
All these players are good players. Like, they all still have name value. So they trick everyone to think like, oh, the Clippers, man. Like, they're going to be the best team in the NBA. And they're still very good. I mean, they beat the Lakers by 48 in early March.
God damn.
That's more about the Lakers being just ass than the Clippers being amazing. Fun fact, that is simultaneously the biggest victory in Clippers history and the biggest loss in Lakers history. The Lakers were just down bad at this point.
True.
Like, they were at rock bottom. Kobe, I think, was missing the entire season with injury. Like, this was just not a great year for the Lakers. But the Clippers, I mean, they won a franchise record 57 games, played the Golden State Warriors to a great 7-game series in the first round. This series, though, is notable for the Warriors, though, because it's the last season before they are the Warriors that we know of today.
Yeah, this was like, oh, damn, the Warriors are playing the Clippers close. Like, this Warriors team is young. They're up and coming. Like, I was shocked that this series was that close. This is back. I was actually rooting for the Warriors at the time because they were a young team and they were likable before I became the biggest Warriors hater. But Clippers eked it out. This really felt like a year the Clippers maybe could compete for a title. They weren't a favorite or anything, but maybe they can finally do it.
In the next round, though, they faced Oklahoma City, and this series was interesting. They split the first 4 games in Oklahoma City and then in LA. The Clippers actually had a 15-point comeback in the fourth quarter of Game 4. And Game 5, one of the more controversial games in recent NBA playoff history, because the Clippers led this game by 15 early. They led by 13 with 4 minutes to go, and they led by 7 with 49 seconds to go.
That Reggie Jackson play at the end, yeah, that was out off him. Refs got the call wrong. That was complete BS. But I'm not giving the Clippers a pass for this. Like, how many bad plays do you have down the stretch and just completely choke? Like, the point god, Chris Paul, multiple turnovers down the stretch, Jamal Crawford throwing up bricks. This team, no team in NBA history chokes better than this Clippers team.
They do, you're not wrong, but that foul call on Russell Westbrook's 3 was bullshit.
Okay, that is complete BS as well. I'll give them that.
That's a horrible call, especially down the stretch of the game. Awful call by the refs in that scenario.
That was weak as hell. I can't imagine being a Clippers fan watching that. Again, you're all hyped up. It's the Lob City era. You're finally the show of the town. This could be a year that you could compete. And then this happens?
It's Clippers curse, baby.
Yeah, like,
it's the Clippers curse.
Every single time they just choke or get cursed. It's honestly kind of sad.
It's very sad. And it got even sadder in Game 6 because, again, had a big lead, 14-point lead after the first quarter, but nothing was keeping the Thunder out of the conference finals. Durant, I think, went for 39 or something. And of course, the Clippers bow out on their home floor.
Durant back then, 2014 MVP year. Clippers probably still should have won after that Game 5, but...
Yeah, I mean, going up against the young Thunder, I mean, this was back when Brody was playable. Like, this was back when people actually wanted Brody on their team. Also, one more thing, this kind of happened at like the tail end of the 2014 season, and you can't really tell the story of the Clippers without mentioning it. So the whole Donald Sterling controversy. So for anyone who doesn't know, Donald Sterling, who had owned the Clippers since 1981, by the way, when he bought the Clippers, they were still in San Diego, and he took out an ad on a newspaper telling the people of San Diego that he would, quote, make them proud of the Clippers. Well, he moved them 4 years later.
I'm comfortable here and I'm happy here, and I just want to stay here in San Diego.
Does this mean that the team will stay here indefinitely?
Absolutely.
He made him proud for sure.
Yeah, very proud, very proud. What is it with San Diego and like sports owners just lying to that city?
I don't know, like you got nice weather there. I know LA is so close, so it's just so tempting, I think is why, but San Diego, I've been there. Good city.
I've been there too. It's nice.
Yeah.
Legoland's there.
Yeah.
It's a ringing endorsement of San Diego.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
So yeah, Sterling had owned the Clippers since 1981. He moved them to LA, even when the Lakers were in the prime of the Showtime Laker era, so good luck attracting some fans. But he owned the Clippers for 33 years, and before all this awful stuff about him came out, he was already considered one of the worst owners in the NBA. But it came to light in 2014 that V. Stiviano, who was Sterling's mistress, had posted a picture on Instagram with Magic Johnson, and Sterling was upset with that because he didn't want her to, quote, broadcast that she was associating with black people.
This is so messed up. For this to happen in 2014.
This isn't the fucking 60s, old head.
Yeah,
like,
this is insane.
And it was wrong in the 60s and it's wrong now.
Yeah, and this is a predominantly black sport, obviously. Like the players, even the coaches, like everything. And for an owner to be saying this sort of stuff, absolutely just disgusting. And I feel so bad for the Clippers players at the time, past Clippers players, the staff, the organization, all of it, because this is just so fucked up.
A bunch of current and former players spoke out against Sterling. I think I remember Baron Davis speaking out against him and saying that he was just like a horrible person. From what I remember, Baron said something along the lines of like, he never felt like comfortable or like safe in his presence, which is like, that's your own player. Someone who plays for your team saying he's not comfortable just being in your presence.
It's a bit of a red flag.
Just a little bit.
I mean, everything we've heard about this guy, he's just a complete piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
there's no redeeming qualities about him. So this was just awful. And I'm just glad he's no longer owning an NBA team and never will again.
Yeah, the Clippers, before Game 4 against the Golden State Warriors, they wore their shirts inside out to obscure the team logos, which I thought was a really nice gesture. And if I remember correctly, this was the 2014 playoffs, and I believe teams around the NBA were wearing black socks and black shooting sleeves. Remember, the Blazers were doing it. So I remember that was Game 6 against the Rockets, and the team, if you look at the Blazers, they're in their white home uniforms, but they're wearing black accessories. So that was a really nice show of solidarity across the entire league.
Yeah, respect for the league doing that. I feel like if this happened in the modern NBA, there would be way more backlash and repercussions for them. I don't know what would have happened at this point, but respect for the league coming together. This is just disgusting and insane, so respect for the league doing that. I actually didn't remember that black arm sleeve thing at the time, but now that you say it, I remember Mo Williams in that Game 6 did have a black arm sleeve, so.
Yeah, I think if this happened nowadays, I don't even think the games would have gone ahead.
I would not fault them at all for it.
No. On April 29th, though, Adam Silver famously banned Donald Sterling for life. He handed down a $2.5 million fine, which was the maximum amount allowed. Former Citigroup and Time Warner chairman Richard Parsons was named interim CEO while the team was sold. There were a lot of candidates. Magic Johnson was a candidate, which would have been fucking hysterical.
That would have been amazing.
That would have been fantastic. Oprah was also a candidate.
Oh, okay.
And Floyd Mayweather.
Really? I do not remember these.
I mean, he's got money in his name.
He does. Money Mayweather.
And Oprah could have afforded it.
Oh, yeah. Oprah would have balled out. I could have seen Oprah get, like, some big name free agents. You want to make the Clippers great? You bring in Oprah.
Oh, yeah. Now, they went with former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer. Honestly, like, I love Steve Ballmer as an owner, mostly because, like, you can tell he cares.
Do we have any Clipper fans here? I can't hear you!
Yeah, the Clippers need a guy like Steve Ballmer that isn't just in it for the money, like just as an asset to build wealth. Like, Steve Ballmer honestly loves the Clippers. Like, he cares a lot about the game. So I think for an NBA owner, for the Clippers, he's a perfect fit.
Yeah, Ballmer officially took control on August 12th after a California court confirmed the sale from Shelley Sterling, Donald's wife. So he was having an affair outside of his marriage. Just a real stand-up guy, isn't he?
Yeah, this guy, a class act all around, like stand-up individual, role model type.
Some fun facts about this. Originally, Shelley wanted to retain control of the Clippers, and she claimed that her husband was suffering from dementia.
I didn't know if that was a symptom of dementia, just being completely racist.
Yeah, normally if you have dementia, you like forget stuff.
Yeah, you forget your daughter's name or what you ate for breakfast. You don't just become a hateful bigot, but I could be wrong. I'm not a medical professional.
Maybe he has selective dementia. He just forgot that all men are created equal part of the Constitution.
Right, okay. Yeah, now that makes sense.
As part of the deal, though, Shelley received the title Owner Emeritus, which essentially means honorary owner, which is just fucking stupid. She also received the title Clippers #1 fan, as well as 10 tickets in section 101 or 111 for all Clipper games, 2 courtside tickets for all games in Los Angeles, 6 parking spots in Lot C for each game, 12 VIP passes that include access to the Lexus Club, Arena Club, or Chairman's Lounge and Media Room or equivalent for all Staples Center games, 3 championship rings following any Clippers title, and she's gonna run a charitable foundation and a partridge in a pear tree.
God damn. Is she getting all that for that new stadium too? Like, is that part of the deal?
I don't think so, because it said at Staples Center.
Ooh, so Steve Ballmer was like, we're done giving out these tickets. We're building the whole ass new stadium.
This ain't gonna fly at the Kia Forum.
Yeah, you ain't getting it there. I cannot believe that. Like, goddamn, how much stuff do you need?
Like, that's an insane list of demands. Like, the honorary title of Clippers #1 fan.
I mean, does anyone else actually want that, though, to be fair?
Clipper Daryl.
Okay, sure.
Like an actual Clipper fan.
What'd you say, 3 championship rings?
Yes.
1 isn't enough? You need 3
right,
of them?
like, why do you need 3? Do you need 2 to put on display in your house and 1 that you can wear?
Maybe you need 1 for a certain outfit. They can do some different colors or something. I don't know. 1 for your vacation house, 1 to keep in the car.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much all that is going to apply at the new place, but that's all she got in addition to the however many $1 billion they paid for the actual franchise itself.
Not a bad deal for her.
For just being married to to the bigot owner of the team.
Yeah, I hope she isn't racist too, so hopefully she's a good person.
That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Let's move on to 2014-15. First year under Steve Ballmer, they lost Willie Green, Darren Collison, Danny Granger, and Ryan Hollins. And again, they signed guys that have name value, but aren't very good. They got Spencer Hawes, Jordan Farmar, and they traded for Austin Rivers at mid-season with Doc as the coach, which I'm sure ruffled nobody's jimmies.
That was so funny. The fact that they traded for Austin Rivers, like, Doc was pushing hard for this move.
Well, he was the GM at the time, I think.
Yeah, dude had all the control. He's like, nah, I'm getting my son. Dude pulled the LeBron before LeBron. Coaching his son instead of playing with him. And then Spencer Hawes and Jordan Farmar, like, what? Spencer Hawes, honestly, I'm not gonna hate. He was decent for them if I remember correctly. Jordan Farmar, hell no. Like, that dude was not good in the NBA. He was decent UCLA, not a good NBA player. I do not care.
This season, though, I mean, the Clippers, they romped off to 56 wins, another great season. Had to feel even better that the Lakers just slipped further and further into irrelevancy. They only won 21 games this year.
Yikes. Yeah, this was weird. It was like the Clippers were the LA team, like celebrities and like, influencers or whatever. They were going to Clippers games, not Lakers games, because the Lakers were that bad.
This year, though, in the Western Conference, it was one of those years where it was just stacked. Like the 8 seed won 45 games, and then the 7 seed won 50 games. So from the 7th seed up, every team won 50 games. And because of the weird way the divisions worked back then, the Blazers actually got a top 4 seed, even though they only had 51 wins because we won our division. So that bumped a couple teams with like more wins than us down in the pecking order. So the Clippers matched up with San Antonio in the first round. The defending champion San Antonio Spurs were the 6th seed.
Hey, that happened this year with the Golden State Warriors. It's not unheard of, but that sucks for the Clippers. You're like, you work your butt off all year to get the 3rd seed, maybe get like an easier team, get an easier first round series, and then you check the schedule, you're playing the defending champion Spurs. Like, that sucks.
This series, though, was an incredibly tight back and forth series. Clippers won game 1 at home. Spurs come in, beat them in overtime in game 2. Spurs blow out the Clippers 100-73 in game 3. But like from then on, Clippers got a win in game 4 on the road in San Antonio. Then the Spurs win on the road in game 5 in LA. And then the Clippers, the rare instance where a team loses game 5 at home and then goes on and wins game 6 on the road.
Yeah, we're gonna hate on the Clippers a lot in this video and make fun of them and everything, but we gotta give them some props to this series. Defending champs, a lot of pressure on you. You're down 3-2, and then you win 2 straight games against the defending champs. Chris Paul had some great moments in the series. Blake Griffin was pretty good. All around, just great showing by the Clippers. Gotta give them some props for this at least.
Helps them in game 6 that the Spurs' top 2 scorers were, no joke, Marco Bellinelli dropping 23, and then Boris Diaw scoring 17.
Chris Paul with 15 assists. How about that? Great showing by the Clippers in game 6. Credit to them.
And then we move on to game 7, and this game is iconic for Chris Paul's performance. 27 points on a bad hammy, hits the game-winning shot that, I swear to God, when he shot it, I thought it was going to go over the backboard. He put it so high up.
That's one of the toughest, like, game winners I've ever seen. Like, it was so contested. He shot it so weird. He, like, pulled it from the right side of his body on the bad hamstring. Chris Paul, perennial all-time choker, but huge respect for this game in this moment. Hitting a game winner on injured hamstring. That was just huge.
So they beat the Spurs, they move on to the second round to play the Houston Rockets, and boy, at the time, this looked like it was gonna be the Clippers' time. They were finally gonna get to their first conference finals in franchise history. They won game 1 on the road by 16, won this game without Chris Paul, by the way. Dropped game 2, fine, still didn't have Chris Paul, but they blew the Rockets out in games 3 and 4. Won game 3 by 25, won game 4 by 33, got blown out in game 5, sure. But they had game 6 in hand, up by 17 with 2 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, and they were up by 13 at the start of the 4th. And then
it wouldn't be complete without another Clippers choke. Like, they have a great series against the Spurs. They're feeling good, feeling high, but of course they have to have their classic choke. And what's so pathetic about this game, it wasn't James Harden going off for the Rockets. It wasn't Dwight Howard dominating the post. It was Corey Brewer and Josh Smith shooting like Steph Curry out there.
I was gonna say, yes, this is horrible on the Clippers' part, part, they were up by 13 at the start of the fourth, and they got outscored in the fourth, 40-15. But there's only so much you can do when Josh Smith is dotting you in the eye from three. This is a man who sucks at shooting a basketball, and he hit 3 threes, contested threes nonetheless, in the fourth quarter. At a certain point, you just throw your hands up and be like, all right, this is bullshit. Like, can't do anything about that.
Josh Smith, he kind of reminds me of a guy like Julius Randle. Like, Julius Randle's a way better shooter, but they can either just throw up brick after brick after brick, but when they're hot, they can damn near just hit everything and look like the best player on the court. So it kind of makes sense.
It does not make sense.
Okay, Josh Smith, like, for whatever reason, I'm not surprised. Like, of all the random ass, like, players to do this, I can see Josh Smith just getting hot for no reason.
I could see him getting hot, but only against the Clippers.
Yeah, exactly. Only against the Clippers.
Not even the Blazers are this cursed.
No, not even close.
And in game 7, I mean, bless the Clippers' hearts, they tried, but they had no prayer of winning this game.
Yeah, James Harden was great. 31-18, he took over. God damn, this is just pathetic and sad. The only thing I'll give the Clippers is JJ Redick and Blake Griffin. I know on JJ Redick's podcast, they said they were just straight gassed from the Spurs series. And that's something we don't really think about, like series in the past before then, like how much that can drain on you. So I think they were just straight gassed, but this is inexcusable.
And bafflingly enough, this wasn't the end of Doc Rivers in LA.
They're like, we got to re-sign this man after that.
So the Clippers suffer a horribly embarrassing collapse in the NBA playoffs. So how do you remedy that? You sign Lance Stevenson.
Yeah, exactly.
And they added a few more players. They added Wesley Johnson, Paul Pierce. Again, Paul Pierce. He's past his best. Like, he's a great name on paper, but how much is an old Paul Pierce gonna help you win now?
I don't necessarily hate these moves. They actually seem kind of decent for the time, but again, how does this happen every offseason? It's always just washed up like former stars, like Lance Stevenson. Again, he had some decent years after this, I guess. At least for the Pacers, he's always good. Wesley Johnson, never really good for the Clippers. And then Paul Pierce, like, I guess, reunite with Doc.
Yeah,
why not?
As a Doc connection.
Why not?
Wesley Johnson, though, the only thing I remember about him on the Clippers is James Harden just shattering his ankles with that step back and Trevor Ariza's iconic high knees celebration reaction to it. This offseason is most well known for the DeAndre Jordan fiasco, where he verbally agreed to a 4-year, $80 million contract with the Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks were finally going to land a big name free agent in the offseason, although apparently DeAndre Jordan, he started having doubts. So the Clippers flew to Houston to try to convince him, and they stayed with him at his house, literally like locked him in his own house until the signing moratorium ended so that he would re-sign with the Clippers.
I honestly forgot this even happened. I'm glad we're bringing it up because this is one of the funniest things to happen in NBA history. And I don't know if this is confirmed, but wasn't Mark Cuban driving around trying to call DeAndre Jordan, like just looking for him, like driving around town? I heard that. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's hilarious.
You know, I think I did hear that, and from what I remember, the Clippers personnel who were at DeAndre's house, like, they kept his phone away from him.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Like, they're like, no, DeAndre, your phone's not going off. Like, nothing's wrong. We're just gonna stay with you, and we're gonna play fucking Yahtzee until the moratorium ends, you know?
This literally sounds illegal. They literally kidnapped him. Like,
and held him hostage.
Yes, the definition of the word, like, it's kind of messed up, but I guess it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it did work. The Clippers re-signed him 4 years, $88 million, so they got him back. One more thing with the 2016 offseason. This was the offseason that the Clippers did their big rebranding. They got a new logo, they got new jerseys. I liked the old branding, I really did, but it was always gonna be associated with, like, the Donald Sterling controversy and whatnot. So better to just get a new identity, new jerseys, new logo, wash yourself of all that controversy. That's right, I went to business school.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I honestly hate the new branding.
Really?
Yeah, it's just so basic. It's that whole modern NBA thing where everything is just this like minimalistic, no character to it. So I honestly hate it, but I get why they did it.
I know why you hate it.
Why?
Because it's a circle.
Yeah, every logo is a circle at this point. I hate that.
This season, though, again, it's the same song and dance every year with the Clippers. 53 wins, a good season. They ditched Lance at midseason for Jeff Green, which, Jeff Green, that's a solid role player. Also, on January 23rd, Blake Griffin got in a fight with a member of the Clippers equipment staff at a restaurant in Toronto.
How does that happen? In Toronto, and he gets in a fight with an equipment staff? How could a fight start between those two? Like, what the hell's going on
He's
here?
warming up or something, and me like they forgot my favorite basketball on the team playing. Not a great year for Blake all around though. Missed 45 games due to a torn quad, and also he got suspended for that fight. So Blake missed a huge chunk of the season. Probably the reason they regressed a little bit down to 53 wins after having 56 the year prior. In the playoffs though, they matched up against the Portland Trailblazers, and look, we are both diehard Blazer fans, and we'll be the first to admit that if Chris Paul and Blake Griffin had not both gotten injured in this series, it was going to be over in 4 games.
Yeah, this is going to be a sweep. The Blazers were just shocked to even make the playoffs. This is the year LaMarcus dipped. We were supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, but Dame carried us to a great season.
Yeah, we won like 44 games or something. Like 6th seed in the playoffs. Like, sure.
Yeah, we were just like happy to be in the playoffs. CJ was great this year. We got blown out in LA the first 2 games. I was like, yikes, this series is over. But then we got pretty damn lucky.
Yeah, Blake re-aggravated that quad injury, and CP3 broke his hand, both in game 4. So, hey, we won game 3 on our home court when they were both around, but in game 4, they were both out. Game 5, we went to LA, won by 10, and then big respect for Austin Rivers in game 6, because he played his heart out. From what I remember, he caught an elbow or something in the face at some point in game 6, because he was bleeding buckets in game 6, like right above one of his eyes. He had a huge gash and he was just bleeding like crazy, but they went down in 6. Also, little fun anecdote about this game. We were at this game and I was horribly sick during this game. So I literally cheered right at the beginning, realized, oh shit, my throat is so sore, I can't talk. So I didn't say anything for the whole entire game until finally cheering when the final buzzer went off.
Yeah, I remember that. You were sick as hell that game. And Austin Rivers, again, big respect to him for this game, because I was kind of a hater of him. I was like, okay, he's just on the team because of Doc. But he got that injury. He came back. He played pretty well, to be honest. But Mason Plumlee iced the game at the free throw line, and the Blazers advanced. We were just hyped to be out of the first round because we did not expect that at all.
Oh, I was hyped to win a game.
Yeah, exactly.
I was hyped we didn't get swept. So the Clippers, they're coming off a playoff loss to the Blazers, not really needing to hit the panic button because, your 2 stars are out. Now, if your 2 stars are playing, then you need to smash the panic button. But, 2016, again, it's the same song and dance every damn year. They brought in Maurice Spates, Brandon Bass, Raymond Felton. These are the exact type of moves I would make to fill out my association roster in 2K14.
It's just what they did. To be honest, when they signed Maurice Spates, I was like, all right, he was pretty good for that Warriors team, but it was clear quickly he just benefited from that Warriors team. He was not that good for him. And then you signed Raymond Felton, like really? Out of all the point guards you could get, you signed fat ass Raymond Felton.
This was also Paul Pierce's final year. He had that really nice moment in Boston where he hit that 3 and the whole crowd cheered for him. And he also had that moment in Golden State where Draymond told him they don't love him like that. You ain't Kobe. They don't love you like that.
Trying for that farewell tour. They don't love you like that.
That is grade A trolling from Draymond right there.
It was so spot on. Like, you're Paul Pierce. You're an NBA legend. I'll give you that.
You're good.
But you're not Kobe. You're not LeBron. You don't get that farewell tour.
You're not Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, you're not that guy.
No, you're not him. You're not that guy. One thing that's interesting to note about this team is they only had 1 All-Star this year, and it was DeAndre Jordan.
That's so weird. If you'd ask most NBA fans, and honestly, if you'd ask me, I wouldn't even know DeAndre Jordan made an All-Star team.
I always remembered he made 1. I would not have been able to tell you it was this year. I would have just guessed. I probably would have been at 2015. I don't know. 2015. Let's go with that.
Some year around then.
I saw you knock down that jump shot yesterday. That was nice.
I shoot better than you.
Chris Paul didn't make it. Blake Griffin didn't make it. Weird year for the Clippers. They went 51-31, 4th seed in the West. Like, they were still a very good team, but very much felt like they were on their way down, and it kind of felt like they missed their window.
Yeah, this is when you could tell this team ain't winning the title. They're a bit older now. They were kind of done at this point.
And the playoffs this year, oh boy. They get to the playoffs as the 4th seed. They're playing the 5th seeded Utah Jazz led by Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
Hardly a juggernaut. They lost Blake Griffin after a game 3 win for the rest of the playoffs with a toe injury. They were up 2-1 when they lost Blake, but they lost game 4, lost game 5 at home. Then they went on the road and won game 6, and then came home and lost game 7 by 13.
This team makes no sense. Like, looking back at these playoff series, what happened game by game? It just makes 0 sense. Not to say with Blake Griffin, new year, same story. This dude got injured every damn damn year in the playoffs. Like, his body was made of glass.
Yeah, that game 7, I remember just being shocking. Because Clippers go on the road in Utah. They win game 6. It's now tied 3-3. They're coming back to their place, and they get hammered at home by kind of a whatever Utah team.
Yeah, I really did not think much of this Utah team. Like, led by Gordon Hayward, ISO Joe, like an ancient ISO Joe, was getting buckets for them. I think he had a game winner in game 1 of this series.
Oh, that's the type of thing that would happen to the Clippers.
Exactly.
Old ass ISO Joe is just dotting you up. It's like Josh Smith all over again.
Of course, as always, the Clippers found a way to lose.
And they went into the 2017 offseason. And I gotta be real, I don't really remember what the vibe was around this team. My guess is the feeling was they were just gonna run it back again somehow. But they brought in Jerry West as a special consultant. Jerry West obviously helped build the 2000 Lakers teams. He helped build the Warriors into the juggernaut they are. And shortly after that, completely out of nowhere, they traded Chris Paul to the Rockets for Lou Williams, Pat Bev, Montrezl Harrell, Sam Dekker, Deron Hilliard, DeAndre Liggins, Kyle Wiltshire, a first-round pick in cash, just out of the blue.
Yeah, that trade came out of nowhere, and I still don't really understand what was going on in their mind during this era. Because, yeah, they trade Chris Paul, and then they re-sign Blake Griffin to a massive contract. 5 years, $173 million. So it was like, what the hell is this team doing? Are they just trying to get younger and rebuild around Blake?
Building around Blake without Chris Paul just felt weird. Like, everyone openly acknowledged, like, yeah, the reason why Blake has looked so good for the past like 3 or 4 years is because he has the best point guard in the NBA throwing him lobs. What is he gonna look like without that? And I gotta say, the way that they re-signed Blake, they essentially like created a physical memory lane of his journey to being on the Clippers, from high school to Oklahoma to now with the Clippers, and they held a, no joke, fake jersey retirement ceremony in Staples Center in front of nobody.
Remember the shirts they had? They had these like shirts where it was like Blake Griffin was on it. I think like Obama, MLK,
What?
Malcolm X. Yes, there was these weird ass shirts they had.
What's the context?
I have no idea what the context is, to be honest. Nobody knew what the context was when it happened. It was just like, what the hell is this?
Are they trying to say like Blake is one of the great African Americans of all time?
I guess. I don't know.
What?
They were just hyping him up.
Okay, we just had to pause our recording because we had to actually look up to make sure these shirts were real and Ben wasn't just bugging out. It wasn't just great African Americans. JFK is on this. Lincoln is on this. Albert Einstein is on this. Gandhi is on this. Nelson Mandela and Muhammad Ali and Blake Griffin. And it says it says LA Pioneers on it. This is up there with the Knicks putting on that fake Sopranos skit for LeBron as one of the weirdest recruiting pitches I've ever seen.
And it's even worse than that.
Oh, it's way worse than that.
Like, why is Abraham Lincoln on there? Like JFK, like just two random ass presidents.
And the funny thing is, after they did all that, they didn't even wait till the ink was dry on the contract to ship him off to Detroit for Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, Boban, and a first round pick.
Yeah, they quickly realized, like, that was kind of a mistake. We just locked up an aging superstar known for his dunking ability, coming off an injury every single year to a 5-year contract. Probably not the best idea.
Not a good idea at all.
To be fair, I'll give the Clippers credit. This was actually a great move for them. They were just like, we'll just re-sign this guy, hype him up as this like next future player to build around, and then we'll just, like a 2K trade, like cash in on his value.
Dump him on Detroit for Avery Bradley, great perimeter defender, Tobias Harris, decent scorer, Boban, just a great guy.
Yeah, fun guy.
And then a first round pick.
Yeah.
Like, you would think the Clippers would be the ones sending out a first round pick to get rid of that contract, but Detroit was like, oh no, we'll have him. And I mean, Lob City really ended with, the trade of Chris Paul, but when they traded away Blake Griffin, that was the official end of it. And boy, this team never really won anything, but God, they were fun to watch.
To be honest, I think they get a bit too much hate. Like, all we talk about is the disappointments, and that makes sense. Like, there was a lot of them, but for Clippers history, like, a team that has been so bad for so many years, this was still a bright spot in their history.
This was the bright spot.
Yeah, exactly.
And even still to this day, it's probably a bigger bright spot than the Kawhi PG era.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think even like the Kawhi PG era doesn't happen if it's not for this era, because it kind of elevated the Clippers from the laughing stock to just the second team in LA.
And hell, when they were at their best, like, they dominated the Lakers. Now, this had a lot to do with the fact that the Lakers were, well, shit for most of the Lob City era, but the Clippers, they went 19-4 against the Lakers. Back in like 2008, if you had said the Clippers are gonna go 19-4 against the Lakers over like 5 seasons, people would have laughed you out of the building.
Yeah, and as much crap as we give them, like, for this new stadium and everything, like, they're slowly becoming their own franchise with their own identity. They're still never gonna have, like, a real big fan base in LA, but they're at least getting out of the shadow of the Lakers at least a little bit at this point.
And like you said, if this team doesn't happen, then Kawhi and PG don't even consider going to the Clippers. Like, this Lob City team paved the way for the Clippers we have now and the Clippers that we're gonna have in the future. That is the video, guys. How will you remember the Lob City Clippers? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.